So we will move on to where we already stopped. So we've done a lot of things on the list. And I mentioned to you, don't worry yourself much. We will do all of these things again. So we're just introducing you to everything we can do with the list. But at the end of the lesson, we're going to have to do those things one after the other. So the last time we talked about how we can look through a list, and we also talked about list comprehension, how we can append. So we said for X and fruits, if A in X, no list to append X. So the meaning is you can get a new list from an old list. I have an old list called fruits, and I want to get a new list which is containing. I wanted to look through all the lists and find me every fruit that has the letter A. So let's say, for example, someone is finding the name of a person in a list of like 2 million names, and it's very difficult for him to find every name that has got A. So then your manager came over to you and said, listen, I want to find the name. I want to find a list. I want to make a new list, which is started with every name, which has a name which has got A in the name. Let's say, for example, someone is Ian, and your manager does not know where the person is saved. He wants to find it. So then he asks you to write a code to collect all the names that has got A in it. So it's pretty easy. You use a for loop to make this happen. Say for X and fruit. If that's a conditional statement, when the for loop says for X and fruit, that is to say, for everything in fruits, that's the meaning. For all the contents we have in fruits. If A is in X, that is to say, everything is in the fruits. If A is in the items in the fruit, so append that to the word, append that letter, that fruit to the new list. So then it's going to append it. Then you print the new list. So this is a very, very important code. We need to learn it. So let me say it again. You write a for loop, you say for fruits, for X in fruits. You can rewrite it in another way. You can say for fruits in fruits. If A in fruit, no list the append fruit is going to give you the same result. So this is how we usually do it. And we also talked about list comprehension. So you can do with only one line of code. Although I personally would not encourage you to do to run a for loop using this method. It's very confusing. If you're not used to it, or if you don't have a syntax already stored somewhere and you just manipulate it, you can easily make a mistake. So because the syntax doesn't actually make more sense. It's a new list equals to X for X in fruits. That is fruit for fruit in fruits. It's very confusing. If A in X. So it works sometimes, but I'm not going to encourage you to do this, write your for loop like this. The best way to write your for loop is this. It makes it look clean and it makes it look understandable. So now we want to move on to what we mean by syntax. So let's say, for example, you have a no list. The no list is an expression for item in iterable if the condition is met. If the condition is met, so if the condition is met, then if the condition is true, then it's going to run it. So the meaning is you are talking about that you want to have a new list, but you've got conditions. So if the condition is met, then it's going to collect the names with the condition. So the return value is a new list, leaving the old list unchanged. So the meaning is if you want to see the list you had before, you will still have the list you had before the way it is. But the only thing is it's going to create a new list with the names of items that meet the condition you gave. So it's going to collect it's going to collect another list with items which meet the condition in which you wanted. So this is why we call it a condition. Condition, when you see if, is a conditional statement. So you said a condition is like a filter that would only accept the items that evaluate to be true. So if the item is true, it would accept it. If the item is not true, it will not take it. Example, when you say only accept items that are not Apple. So how do you say that? You say, run through all my list and get me all the items except the one which is Apple. So you say X for X in fruit. If X is not equals to fruit. So you say X for X in fruits. That is to say, look through all the items in fruit. If the items in fruit is not Apple, then get me the item. So it's going to give you what? All the items except what? It's going to give you everything except the fruits. So let's do some example before we rush to the next level. Let me quickly open the let me open my Google Colab. So, and let me open my notebook. Does anyone want to say something? Please mute your mic, everybody. Mute your mic, please. All right. So now let's do some examples here. Oh, this were projects I worked on 2022 December. That was the last time I opened it. So these were crazy projects. Don't worry, we'll get there together. So let's quickly move on to the next one. So I would increase the font so that we can all see together very, very properly. So now let's say we have let's make a new list. And list is equals to, let's make it with fruits, or let's say fruits. Let's say fruits. Let's try apple, banana, pawpaw, cashew, orange, mango, grape. What other ones? Coconut, banana, pineapple. So let's have it this way. Let's have, so let's run it. So print fruits. It's gonna run a bit slow because I've not opened this since 2000 and, oh, sorry. All right, so now we have the fruits. Okay, so now we want to say, now let's look at the first rule. The first one we want to do is days. We want to have a new list. So let's use the first syntax. Let's use this new one. Let's do this. I doubt if it's going to copy, but let me try it. So now let's call it a new list. That's a new list is equals to an empty list. Okay. So it's an empty list. So then we give a condition. We say for fruit, and fruits. All right. If A in fruits FRUIT. Are you with me? If A in fruit, what should you do? Append. If A in fruit, then new list dot append. Did you see that? So then if A in fruit, then new list dot append. The append what? Append fruit. Is that another way, Chase? Is there any error in the code? So let's run it and see if there's an error. So everything looks good. So now let's print a new list. Print new list. Don't worry about this problem. We're gonna solve it again. So now we have a new list. If you want to check if all the content is the same, there are ways to do it. So you run a code here first to say print. You want to know if how many items are printed. You say print length of fruits. Print the length of fruits. So it tells you is 9. So now you have a new list. You want to know if all the items are actually printed in the new list. You say print length. That's going to save you time from counting how many things are being printed or not being printed. So 9 was printed. So 8, that is to say 1 is not printed. So that one is one of the fruit that does not have A. I think it's coconut. Most of the fruits has got A in it. So the meaning of the syntax says, I want to have a new list. The new list is an empty list for fruit and fruits, for all of the items in the fruit, all the fruits in the fruit list. If A is in fruit, then append that one, append the letter, which has got an item, which has got A in it, append it to the word new list. And that's what you have here. So now I can also rewrite this. I can rewrite this by saying, by writing our code, I want to have, let me have a new list 2. New list 2 is equals to what? Is equals to an empty list, okay? Then I start my for loop for fruit and fruits, colon. If I want to write it, if, then put quotation A. Now I want to compare these two. Look at, we say if A in fruit, then I want to write it in another way. If A not in fruit. I've not written it like this before, but I want to try it. Not in fruit. We usually write it like not equals to. Then you say what? You say append. You say new list the append. New list to the append. The append what? Append. Open a new list to the append. Append fruit. Am I correct? So let's say I doubt if this not in would work, but it usually works in SQL, so it should work maybe. So let's run it. If it doesn't yell, that means it's fine. It's not gonna work. So there is a problem. So there is another new list to the append fruit. Oh yeah, I think it wants to work. So I got a problem here. Fruit. Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. So the way we usually write it in Python, we usually write not equals to not like this. I'll show you how we should do it. So print no list to. Now it's printing only coconut. Can you see now? So not in is actually what we use in we use that in SQL. But I didn't know it can actually work also in Python, though a lot of people have been saying it and I see them writing it that way. But I didn't usually write it. The way I usually write it is I usually use this. So this is not as well. So this is the one I usually use in Python. But now we can see. So what does this mean? You say you have a new list too, which is given an empty empty list. So you now say for fruit in fruits, that's the for loop. If A not in fruit, no list append fruit. So it iterated through all the lists and it found the item that does not have A in it, and it found only coconut. You see that? So this is an amazing way we can work with list. Another way we can work with list is this way. There's another new way to write it. But like I mentioned to you, I'm not a fan of this way. As you can see, I'm not a fan of it, but let's do it and see if it's gonna work. So let's do it, but I would encourage you that you should not do it. All right, I would encourage you not to do it. So let's do this and let's do the other one. If you can avoid it, try to avoid it because it does not actually make your code look very easy to read. It does not make it easy for anyone to just lay the hands on your code and know what you're talking about. But if you think it's fine with you and you want to use it, no problems. It's fine once you can work. So now let's go to the Google Colab and practice it and see how we can work with it more. So the first one is this. So we want to have a new list. Let me have another new list 3. New list 3 is equals to, instead of opening an empty list, you write all the code you want inside it. So you say fruit, F-R-U-I-T, say fruit for fruit and fruits. If C in fruit. Now can you see? Too much repetition, isn't it? Fruit for fruit and fruit. If C in fruit. So let's run it. Now it worked. So now let's print the new list 3. Please print new list 3. So it worked. It printed cashew and coconut. So these are the only 2 fruits that is got C in it. So now let's print not in using the same method. So let's print not in using the same method. Let's call that new list 4. New list 4. So new list 4 is equals to open an empty list and write your code there. Say fruits for fruits in fruits. Fruit for fruit in fruits. If fruit is not equals to let's is not equals to mango. So we want to print everything except mango. Or let me just say equals to G. And let me see if it's gonna run. So it actually worked. So I want to print now my new list 4. I want to print my new list 4. So can you see it printed everything? Did it print everything? Yeah, it printed everything. So now let me use mango. So I will run it again. And I'll print run this. So now the mango is out. So now if I said the new list for fruits and fruits, if fruit is not equals to mango. So now let me change the word to is not. Is not. Fruit is not mango. So let's run it. So it didn't work. Fruit for fruit and fruit if okay, let me say if G let me write it this way. If G not in fruit. So this one makes more sense. Fruit for fruit and fruit if G not in fruit. Okay, let's try and run it and see if it's gonna make sense. So can you see it actually worked? So if you print it, it's not gonna print. So any fruit that's got G in it, it's not gonna print it. So if you want to print that other way, you want to use not equals to, you have to swap it. So in case you want to print using if not in, you have to put that letter before the fruit. Is that understood? I think you can say the word we're changing it. So if you have a good grip of your programming language, you will not have stress to manipulate your codes the way you want it to fit yourself. So if you have any questions before we proceed, feel free to ask. So now let's move on to the next one. Now we want to have a condition. So we want to have a condition if X not equals apple. It will return true for all the elements other than apple. Making the new list to contain all fruits except apple. I should do that already. So the condition is optional and can be omitted. You can omit it. You can decide not to put it in it. Example with no if statement. So we have a new list X for X in fruits. So now the first syntax, X for X in fruits, or you say fruit for fruit in fruits. So iterable means the iterable can be any iterable object like list, tuple, set. So we can use, we can iterate. Iteration means running through a list, running through a tuple, running through a set. We're gonna talk about all of this later on. So example, you can use a range function to create an iterable. You can say new list equals to x for x in range of 10. So when you say this, it's gonna create a list within the range of 10. So let's try this quickly before we move on to the next one. Excuse me. So we say x for x in range 10. So it said there is a problem with it. It's not saying that x for x in range of 10. So, but what I'm thinking is wrong with it is the way we did put it. So would you put everything in the what in a angle bracket? So let's run it again. So it gave us all the numbers we want. Then you can also have additional way. You can say x for x. You can even use number. You can say num for num in range of what? Range of 200. Oh, that's a mistake. So I can say it's given me everything from 1 to 200, from 0 to 200, from 0 to 199. So it's not going to include 200. So this is it. So like someone was asking me this question before, that can we have numbers generated? We don't want to have, can you see? Just very easy. So we can generate a number like this. So we can also generate a number by spacing. I think it's just the same way. Let me try it. It's not working. An empty list. So all right. So this is how we can find a range of numbers. We can easily just put this number here and it's gonna give us what we need. So, but we don't want to have too many numbers. So let's just have only 10. And by the time you run it, it's gonna give you a very little number. So then the next one is we can also so we can some examples, but with a condition is we can accept only numbers lower than 5. So if we give a condition, after you run the code, you give a condition and say new list equals to x for x in range of 10 if x is less than 5. So we can use this condition. So how do we do it? So it's gonna only give us the number which is less than 5. So this is how to write it. Say after this, you put a condition if x is less than 5. So mind you to always remember to give the condition if you want to sieve it the more. If x is greater than 5. Let me use that. So if you run it, it's gonna give you I'm sorry, I use num. So I use num, I choose num. So it's gonna give us any number which is greater than 5. And if you say less than 5, it's gonna give you the numbers which are less than 5. So it's gonna give you 0 to 4. If you say a num which is greater than and equals to 5, it's gonna give you 5 inclusive. So you say greater than and equals to. It should work. So it's going to give us 5 inclusive. All right. So you need to write the greater than or less than before you write equals to. So this is how we arrange it. So if you also say number less than or equals to 5, it's going to give you from 0 to 5 because you mentioned equals to. So the equals to means 5 is inclusive. Is that understood? So, and also, we can also give more expressions. The expression is the current item in the iteration, but it's also the outcome, which you can manipulate before it ends up like a list item in the new list. Example, set the values in the new list to uppercase. So if you want, I told you we had a little problem with us upper the last class, but we're trying to do something. Let's try to do it again and see if it's going to work. So I actually read the documentation. There's nothing special about upper. It's still the same. So let's say, for example, we have, I mean, let me have, let's say you have a list. Then you want to have another list, which is gonna make all of it, all the items in it be uppercase. Now we have the list. Let's print list, no list 4. Let's print no list 4. Let's say print no list 4. So this is our new list 4. So now let's say, for example, we want to have a new list 4. So we write a code, we say new list 4, new list 4, sorry. New list 4 is equals to open a list. New list 4 is equals to fruit the upper. Fruit the upper for fruits and fruits. Is that understood? Now we're gonna make a mistake here. So I need to do something first. So let me put all this here. Okay, let me call it new list 5. There's no need to waste my time. New list 5, and let me name this new list 4. All right, so I want to have a new list 5, which is going to run everything we have in new list 4, make it uppercase. So it worked today. So now let's print the new list 5. Print new list 5. So when you run the new list, so now you say, so it worked fine today. We did it the last day, it didn't work. Probably the other laptop has got problems with the upper because it's the latest Mac. But this one is 2018, so maybe, I don't know. I read the documentation and there was nothing wrong with it. And there's nothing new about the upper documentation. It's still the same. So this is how to change everything you have in your list to uppercase. So we say fruit the upper for fruit and list. You can put another condition. You can say if A in what? In fruit. So it's gonna only change it's gonna only change the what? The fruit, the items that's got A in it to uppercase. Let me show you this. So now let's print it. Can you see? So it's gonna only show you the what items which is got what, which has got A in it, and it's gonna turn it to uppercase. So can you see? So we can do a lot of things. Actually, I'm not a fan of this, like I mentioned to you. I'm not a fan of these one-line code thing. But if it's working for you and you find it pretty easy, because it's like English, like fruit the upper for fruit and list 4, if A is in fruit. Can you see? It's just like you're speaking English and it's code. So if it works for you, you can keep on using it. But as for me, I will not use it. I'd rather stick to my old customized way of writing code. So let's check the term, and it's 49. All right, let's round up with this page. So you can set the outcome to wherever you like as well. So let's say, for example, you can set all the values in the new list to LO. So I think we talked about that before. So you can say new list equals to LO for X and fruit. So all of the X and fruits, I want everything to be LO. So you can do that. The expression can also contain conditions like not like a filter, but as a way to manipulate the outcome. So example, you can return orange instead of banana. So you can say new list X if X is not equals to banana, else orange for X and fruits. So what does that mean? The meaning is X if X is not equals to banana. So that is to say, collect for me every item in the list if it's not equals to banana. Else, orange for X and fruit. So replace every time you find banana, replace it with orange. So you will see the expression in this example will return the item if not banana, and if banana is going to turn into orange. So you can decide to replace every banana with orange if you want to use it. Let's write the code and see if we are going to get the accurate result or not. Excuse me for got a little bit cough. So let's go to the Colab and see how we can do it. And then we will stop there for today. So now let's open the code, Colab another cell. And what do we want to do? We want to say, we want to replace everything in the list of fruit with LO. So you want to say, let's call it a new list. I say, let's call it list 6 or let's call it list 1. All right. List 1 is equals to, then open an empty list. So we want to have Yusuf. We want to have Yusuf for fruit. In what? In fruit. For fruit in no list. No list 4. Okay. So now you run it. So open another cell and print list 1. So print list 1. It would say it's gonna have everything as Yusuf. So you replace all the things you have in your list as Yusuf. So this is how we can replace. There is another thing we want to do, and we want to change every time you find orange. You want to replace the orange with something else. Let's see the list itself. Let's call the new list and see what we have in it. Or let's call fruits. Let's print fruits. Print fruits. So these are the things we have in the fruits. Now let's replace cashew with orange. Let's replace the cashew with purple. So let's replace the cashew with purple. The time is actually gone much. So I would encourage you to write this last code and send it to me now. So write the last code yourself and send it to me. So let's stop here and we would continue from there in the next class. I wish you all the best. So in case you've got just give me 1 minute so that I can ask you questions if you have a question.